back, breast free. A Percabeth Club Swim alternate universe. Fanfiction, part 1. Today was the last swim meet of Annabeth Chase's life. There was a mix of pure joy and absolute sadness in her. She was so overjoyed to finish this season. It had been a great one for her. All season she had been getting great times, and in this meet alone, she had gotten 2 new PRs. Annabeth prayed for another. She loved to swim, really and truly. It had been a part of her life for years and years. Well, actually 15 to be exact. Now she was a senior in high school, ending her club season and swimming career as a whole with a bang. That was the sad part. Annabeth felt like she was going to be losing a piece of herself, a part that she gave to the water. Not that she was regretting it. Swimming was a huge part of her life, but not the only thing in it. Her college plans were to go to Columbia and study architecture. That didn't really leave much room for competitive swimming. She could only hope for the occasional break to take to the pool. Swim was very important to her after all. "It's cold," Piper complained. Annabeth rolled her eyes at her best friend. It's a fast pool," Annabeth said dryly. Piper pouted at her, barely dipping her toes into the water. "I don't like it," she cried. Annabeth snorted and jumped in, splashing Piper, who shrieked. "Well, get in, or Coach will make you do a 200 fly." That got Piper to jump in. Mid-meet warm-ups were mindless for Annabeth. She had been swimming for this team for so long, she always knew what coaches shouted out which warm-ups. The one mentoring her lane was Coach Hedge. He had a penchant for always making them do worse stroke drills. She had no idea if he just hated them, his job as a coach, or really enjoyed torturing everyone. Because honestly, it could be any of those. Annabeth would often think of the most random things underwater, about how her life would be at college, about how excited and nervous she was for her last event, how she was crazy ready to start a new chapter of her life, and bam! Some random person swam into her. What the heck? There was such a thing as circle swim, and they did it every single day. Annabeth pulled herself upright and veered off to the side, glaring at the swimmer in question. "Oh my God! I'm sorry!" They popped up in front of her, nearly hanging onto the lane line. "I'm so sorry." They were a boy about her age, or at least she thought so. He looked like he was already 19 or something, so she guessed they were the same age. She also secretly hoped for that fact because he was rather attractive, and that fact made its place in her mind. It would really suck if he was a sophomore in college, if he was a sophomore in high school that just happened to look like a senior. Yeah, that would really suck considering she finds him kind of really hot. And embarrassing. And Annabeth did not do embarrassing. "This is the right side of the lane. My right, not yours," she said with bite. He looked sheepishly at her and then looked back behind him. Annabeth followed his gaze to find a huddle of other people that were swimming in their lane. Piper must have been somewhere in that mess, but Annabeth could hardly see her Aphrodite swim cap. Everyone had matching swim caps based on their chosen Greek god or goddesses with their 200 medley relay. The whole idea was thought of by their head coach Sharon. It was a whole thing. A run-in happened there, and I tried to swerve out of it because I thought I could go back in time. But you're a lot faster than I anticipated, especially for warm-ups, he said with a shy smile. Annabeth looked at him blankly. "Oh," she said. He got more distressed. I'm really sorry for running into you," he apologized again. Annabeth waved it away. It's fine. I mean, we should probably get moving or else Coach..." A loud roar cut through her sentence. They both turned around to see that the coach was basically red in the face, yelling for everyone in their lane to get out. "That happens," Annabeth muttered. Piper and Annabeth sat cross-legged and huddled in their warm-up jackets on the ground. Piper and some blonde guy had hit heads, much like Annabeth and that that other guy, only much worse. Annabeth had only hit shoulders with him, but Piper's head was searing with sharp pain now. Her cap was off and Annabeth was applying ice to her head. "You know, he was kind of cute. I forgive him. Also, apparently he wears glasses and didn't have his prescription goggles," Piper muttered. Annabeth rolled her eyes. Piper was a clear through and through tomboy, much like Annabeth. However, she was mildly boy crazy. That was probably the reason she had accepted the Greek goddess of love as their cap theme of all things. She was just so into the idea of true love. "Just because he's a pretty boy doesn't mean you can just forgive him for slamming into you," Annabeth chastised. Piper snickered at her own dirty joke. The blonde rolled her eyes. "He said sorry," Piper pointed out. "He panicked and profusely apologized." Annabeth clicked her tongue. "Well, I guess there's that." "Hey, McLean?" The girls looked up to see the blonde who ran into Piper, and the guy who ran into Annabeth looking nervously down at them. Annabeth didn't like that feeling. She gave him an intense look. They backed away slightly. Sorry for running into you. Is there anything I can do to make up for it?" the blonde asked. In his hand, he held a swim cap. It said Grace and had a lightning bolt on it. Oh, he was Jason Grace, brother of Thalia Grace, on the Zeus/Jupiter relay team. "It's okay. Hosta would be nice, though." "Also, I'm Piper," Piper said with a dazzling smile. Annabeth swatted her shoulder for weaseling out a date of the situation. "After the meet, I know Olive Garden's nearby," he said, seemingly going along with it. Annabeth both cursed and smiled at her best friend for being able to catch guys like flies with honey. It was a mystery that solution was unknown to her. After all, Annabeth had nothing more than a humiliating crush on a guy when she was younger. "I'm down for that," Piper said, her voice reaching levels of excitement. "Same goes for you." The boy squinted at her cap. "Chase? I'm sorry for hitting you. Anything I can do to make up?" Annabeth nodded at him stiffly. "It's fine," she said, not ignoring Piper's look to get a date herself. The blonde girl rolled her eyes. She wasn't Piper. Guys didn't see her and run because they wanted to ask her out on a date. They saw her and ran because she was scary. "Are you sure?" the unnamed swimmer said. Annabeth shrugged. "Yeah, it's all good." She focused back on icing Piper's head. "What's your name?" Piper asked the blonde. He sputtered. Jason. "Jason Grace?" Piper's eyes shone in recognition. "Thalia's your sister?" "Yep." Piper jabbed a finger at her. "This one's really good friends with your sister." Annabeth batted her hand down. Jason looked at her in surprise. "Really? Huh. I must be more blind than I actually thought I was, because I have never noticed you at my house before," Jason said thoughtfully. The boy next to him made a choking sound and howled with laughter. "No, you're not. We always just went out, or she picked me up," Annabeth explained. Jason's mouth dropped into an O shape. "What's your name?" Piper said, looking towards the other boy, who had taken his cap off. His hair was a wild mess of black hair sticking straight up in all directions. It was surprisingly dry. Or maybe it was surprisingly because Annabeth knew she had a lot of hair and there was no way to fit all of it in a cap perfectly, and there was no way to not get water soaked in, and it was a whole thing. The black-haired boy smiled brightly. "Percy Jackson, nice to meet you." "Oh," Annabeth knew him. Everyone knew him. She'd seen him a lot. Swim, that is. She'd seen him swim a lot. I mean, everyone had. He was the sudden prodigy swimmer. Just last year he started swimming, and it was clear that he had a talent for it. He was one of, if not the fastest on the team. Not that he was the winner for every event, more so that he was fast at most. People were shocked when they saw him swimming for the first time. It was like watching a shark in the water. Some people said he had trained with another team that wanted to push him to the Olympics. And others said he had the natural talent of Poseidon, the god of water. No matter what, he was fast, and the theme of his cap was Poseidon. And it was very fitting. Percy cringed at her for no reason. Sorry, I know that face. It's because of the recognition I get because I'm Percy Jackson, he sighed. I'm really nothing special. Please don't freak out. He seemed tired of the local fame. The kid was humble. Annabeth had to give him some points. Whereas Piper had to close her mouth, Annabeth tossed her head and went back to work. Nothing big you want? Fine with me. Anyone with a Finding Nemo towel at age 18 has lost all fame sparks from me, Annabeth said coolly. Piper gasped at her. Jason smirked and Percy began to die of laughter. Her lips pulled up into an involuntary smile. Finding Nemo is great, excuse me, Percy said in mock defense. Annabeth rolled her eyes but didn't bother to hide the smile. She faced mostly away from him because A, it gave her a I don't really care about this or you type vibe. 2, she was busy helping her friend. And 3, he was a lot more attractive without the cap and goggles, and it was really just now registering in her mind that he was shirtless and that it was kind of making her blush. Whatever you want to think, Annabeth teased him. He dropped down and took a seat next to her. It made her entire body and mind shut down for a second. What do you have against a loving Pixar movie about fish? He asked her with mirth. Annabeth shrugged. Nothing. Did I say I had a problem with it? She replied sarcastically. Percy hummed. True, he admitted. Annabeth smiled at Piper's head, though she couldn't see it. Best not to judge so quick. Percy did a dramatic bow, though with him sitting down, it was more like he was slamming his head on the ground. Oh, do accept my deep and sorry apology, for I have sinned in jumping in conclusions. He was so characteristic, Annabeth could hear her heart tripping. Ugh. Sarcastic, humble, and sarcastic? He was hitting all of her weak spots. Boys, 100 free. The announcement rang throughout the pool. Percy stood up and brushed himself off. That's me. Nice talking to you and meeting you guys. He gave them a quick 2-finger salute and began to walk off. He stopped suddenly and turned around with a curious look on his face. I just realized. Chase, you never introduced yourself, Percy said. Annabeth smirked at him. How unfortunate. Seriously, what's your name? Jason was dragging him away, saying that he was going to miss his event. Piper nudged her to throw the kid a bone. Annabeth, she called after him. Percy's face broke out into a huge grin. Swim fast, she called after a minute. I will, just for you, he replied with snark. Even though he meant it as a joke, Annabeth's cheeks went red. Dang it. Percy was just a collection of things that she could not help but fall for.